So now we have our finished animation. But this is an animation within Photoshop, which is using multiple different layers, more layers than we have frames, in order to build up each of these images. So the next step is to make a clean online animation file. And to do that without having to make the computer work too hard, we want to make sure this is saved. Mine is. And then we want to stop it. We want to go to our topmost layer. And then we are going to make layers out of our frames, which is called flatten frames into layers. And what this will do is take your animation and make each one just a solid frame. Because in my case, they aren't already. They're made of multiple components, even on the stage. Now that tells me that I have a 40 frame animation, which is a pretty nice number for an online animation. And then I can delete all of the other frames, or all of the other layers rather. And my animation will still play through just as nicely, but it will play through with a more efficient use of memory. Now this is not a good Photoshop file to use if you want to make changes, right? Because this doesn't have them separated out anymore. But it is a good Photoshop file to use for making a GIF animation. Now I also noticed there is a little mistake in mine. The background shifts during one part. I can see it here. So I'm going to show you an easy way to fix that. You see it shifts right in there. I have just a little jog. So all I'm going to do is for those frames where the background shifts out a little, so it starts at 20 and finishes probably at 28. Let's see if it's still there at 28. Nope. Okay, so 20 to 25. I'm going to select those frames, and during those frames I'm going to turn on frame 1. And you see it will fill in a little bit of that background. So now I won't have that problem. So it's a nice way to quality check each frame, because sometimes as Photoshop flattens things, weird things happen. But I'm not going to add anything new here. But I am going to save this as a different file type. So I'm going to say File, Save As, still a Photoshop, but instead of the character stage, I'm going to call this my storyboard, my final storyboard for this assignment. And you'll see why. I'll save it to the desktop for the time being. Okay, and it's going to be a much more efficient use of memory, so it will save very quickly. Now I have my full animation loop. I have it just as many layers as I have frames, right? So very efficient use, but it's using the millions of colors available in Photoshop. I love that mist lifting off. That's nice. And you can just admire your work and watch it over and over again. It's a hypnotic Photoshop file. It's a good time to make sure that your image size is what it should be before we try to save it as a GIF. So mine is 10 inches by 10 inches by 100 pixels per inch. That's 1,000 by 1,000 pixels. So each single image is only around 3 megabytes, which is not very large. If you have it at, say, 350 pixels per inch, like we were going to print it, then your GIF animation will never work. It will be too big. So make sure it's sized right. Make sure it's saved as a storyboard PSD now. And then we are going to say File, Save for Web. So this is different. We've never done this before. So instead of Save As, Save for Web. And that will bring up this screen. We want to save it as a GIF. And these are the settings I like best. But you can play around and see. Actually, my preferred is perceptual. And it's just how it selects its colors. But GIFs are limited to 256 colors. And I can zoom out a little bit, and I can try playing it through. I like to have bicubic smoother as the quality, so that the movement moves a little smoothly. And if you don't like how the colors get really broken up, looks like old film. But it makes the water look pretty good. Yeah, that's working. All right, maybe I'll try adaptive. I'll usually use either perceptual or adaptive. All right, and then when you're happy with it, you say save, and you're going to save it to the desktop as a GIF. And then we need to test it. So that's one step down. It's saved fine. Now I have my GIF, and I'm going to open it with Safari. It's the only thing I use Safari for, to preview GIF animations, because they load right up. So there it is at full size, 10 inches by 10 inches, as a GIF animation, online, with adaptive color. And you see it actually looks really strong. Doesn't look nearly as bad as it did in the preview, so that's nice. Ooh. And this is at full pixel resolution, so you see that's plenty big for a nice digital display. So it's not like we're skimping on our resolution. We just don't want it any bigger than this. And this could be the new opening to a website about selling holistic medicine. There you go. All right, so our GIF works. So now what do? We've tested it. Now we upload it, right, to PhotoBucket. And we're hoping that the file, if I do right click and say get info, we're hoping that the file is not more than 50 megabytes. Because that will not load well. Mine's around 16. So it's bigger than our 5 megabyte limit, but that can't really be helped. And when you load it up, it should start playing automatically. So I know my GIF will work. Now I go back to my Storyboard PSD file, and now I am going to make my final frames for my storyboard. So I have my sketch storyboard. Now I want to replace these with actual frame grabs from my finished animation. So what do I do? Well, first I'm going to delete all of these timeline frames so it doesn't mess things up. Okay? And now I've got 40 frames here that tell my story. I have to pick 9 of them that tell my story best. And I need to figure out what I want in the middle. So in the middle, I think I want where my creature is glowing kind of the most. So maybe this one. So that's going to be my middle frame. I'm going to indicate that with a color. And from that, I'm going to change my image size, because now we need to make it print ready. So I'm going to say image size. And I'm going to have resample unchecked. And I'm going to make it 3 inches by 3 inches. And now its resolution is 333.33333 because I had resample unchecked. So it's the exact same. It's 1,000 by 1,000 pixels. We're not losing any quality. We're not trying to grow it or shrink it. We're just changing it to be a resolution that we're more comfortable with, closer to 350. Then I'm going to say canvas size, and I'm going to grow it to be 12 inches by 12 inches with white as the extension color. Okay. So now I have my center frame in the center of this 12 inch by 12 inch, which is the same size as an album cover image. And I'm going to move my guides down using the move tool and clicking on the ruler, and they will snap to my center frame. Now right now, all of my 40 frames, all of my 40 layers are stacked like a deck of cards right here, and this is one in the middle. To make it a little bit easier to see, I'm going to add a new layer at the bottom and fill it with white, and then move that behind everything. And now I go to frame 1. And I know frame 1's at the bottom of this deck of cards. But I don't want frame 1, I have auto select turned off. I don't want frame 1 to just be here and touching. I want to give it some space, just like my sketch. I want to have a gutter and a border between each frame. So I'm going to use my guides. You could say view, show guides, or show grid rather. And I'm going to push that 2 back. So 2 up and 2 over. And then I can make new guides there. So 2 little squares away from my 3-inch center frame. Okay? Then I can turn off the guides, and the shortcut for that is Command semicolon. And turn off my grid, which is Command apostrophe. Right? And now I need to figure out, well, what's the next step? Well, using my storyboard, I need to introduce my deer coming in. So I have to pick frames. Can turn off my center frame for the moment. Pick frames and move them that tell my story, no matter where they are in the history. So this is frame number 19, but it's going to be my second frame. And then maybe frame number 27. And then maybe frame number 30 to show that the character starts to grow. And then frame 24. And then, whoops, then I can change to auto select layer because now it's on top of that middle card. And they'll nest into place. Like so. So obviously it doesn't show the whole walking, it doesn't show each step, it shows the main story of what happens. And maybe this frame I should replace with one a little bit earlier. Let's try that. Yeah, where it shows the animal coming onto the screen. Okay, then I can hide my guides, Command semicolon, and if I like this, I'm going to say File, Save As, my final storyboard, Assignment 5, PSD, and then I will save it as a JPEG and upload it to PhotoBucket. So there's 3 things we're uploading. You're uploading your initial storyboard sketch, you're uploading your GIF file animation, so I'm actually going to make a nice JPEG to upload of this. Let's do a quick screen grab of it. I'll go ahead and label it. It's my Carl Assignment 5 sketch. All right. And because it's a screen grab, that's a PNG, and that's fine. And now I go to PhotoBucket. I go to the right folder, which for me will be instructor demonstrations, but for you will just be the top folder for Assignment 5. And then I'm going to upload it to that. And because this is a little complicated, I'm actually going to click on it instead of dragging them in. And I'm going to go right to my desktop. And I'm going to find my sketch. And I'm going to find my GIF file. And I'm going to find my final storyboard and upload them. And hope they all show up. And then I'll label them. The sketch is 1. The final storyboard is 2. And then the GIF animation loop is 3. So Carl 1, Carl 2, Carl 3. And it's getting there. It's got the final storyboard. And they're just different ways of visually storytelling. Some of yours you'll see really obvious change in the storyboard. Others you'll really need the animation to see the change. And now I've got the animation uploaded, the final storyboard uploaded. Now it's just finishing up the sketch. And then I've finished it. I'm on to the next project. As soon as that comes in. All right.